Aldermen are demanding answers this afternoon on what the Chicago Police Department will do with a nearly $200 million budget increase next year.
But Superintendent David Brown says with violent crime on the rise and police morale at record lows, the department needs more than money to help solve the city's violence problem. WGN political reporter Taman Bradley here now with details. Taman?
Dina and Ben, following yet another weekend of gang violence and carjackings in Chicago, today's budget hearing offered City Council an opportunity to grill the city's top cop over his crime-fighting plan. Today, Chicago police leaders face City Council. They were called to testify as members take a look at Mayor Lightfoot's $1.9 billion budget proposal for CPD. Superintendent David Brown used the occasion to paint a rosy picture of the department's work.
CPD, at this point this year, in 2021, have taken 9,470 illegally possessed weapons, many possessed by violent offenders, off the streets of Chicago. We've also made more carjacking-related arrests this year than in 2020. Those arrests include over 1,000 people arrested for carjacking-related offenses. Our cops are doing their jobs, and they're doing their part.
But with the department facing 1,000 vacancies, the superintendent admits he needs more officers.
We have to get thousands of people to take our test. Normally what happens is if we get 100 people taking our test, only about 10% ends up being hired.
The budget and staffing levels were not the only concerns. CPD's ShotSpotter technology is under intense scrutiny. A recent City Inspector General report concluded ShotSpotter changes police behavior and is not an effective tool in developing evidence of gun-related crime.
The Inspector General of Chicago found that only 1 in 10 ShotSpotter alerts ends up in any evidence of shots being fired.
I no longer support ShotSpotter because I want real solutions. I want real evidence-based investments in the things that actually keep us safe.
The superintendent defended the technology.
So gunshot detection technology has saved lives in the city of Chicago. If one life is saved, we should keep that tool in our toolbox.
After a full day of questions about Chicago's violent surge, the superintendent voiced frustration with prosecutors and the courts.
Our cops are doing their jobs. They're doing their jobs in extraordinary ways. But for the courts not holding violent offenders in jail longer, we would be much safer than we are today.
No talk today at the council about defunding the police department. In fact, the mayor's budget increases funding for CPD, but the superintendent says most of that extra cash will fund the pay raises officers have negotiated. Dina and Ben?
Thanks, Taman.
Just think of how many lives could be saved if more money was pumped into investing in the communities, reopening mental health clinics, providing jobs and opportunities for youth in these underprivileged communities. But what does the police department want? More money, more money, more money. Good evening, citizens of Chicago. I am Jerry Vasilatos, and joining me tonight is my guest co-host Daniel Luepker. Hey, Dan.
Hey, very interesting intro. As always, America is exactly like you said. I passed, it must have been 2 weeks ago. I was driving and I saw an advertising. You know, they've all of a sudden thrown up a bunch of advertisements in the city for police. And one of them said, great job, starting pay $69,000 and up. And I'm glad that they were able to negotiate a little more money for themselves with their extra budget with way less people.
Yeah. Well, congratulations to the city of Chicago for being the most dangerous city in the country. Or are we? Yeah. I understand that you dug up some information otherwise.
Yeah, I wouldn't say dug up as much as just typed it in Google and then opened up a couple places. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So I learned something fascinating. So America is, first we have to start with America, but put everything in context. America is the, where is it? 65th most dangerous country in the world. Of that 65th most dangerous country category, Chicago is the 10th most dangerous, and it's right behind Newark, New Jersey, and first place is St. Louis. So Just want to make the point. I mean, I always hear like people say, like, "Oh, Chicago is like super." We're talking like maybe square miles of Chicago specifically. That's incredibly dangerous, and that's it's concentrated in Englewood. That's where a lot of. Well, I guess it depends if which part of Englewood is the gentrified Englewood or the non-gentrified Englewood, and then you have the west side. But it's the very concentrated areas of violence, and it turns out those same areas, just by coincidence, also happen to be some of the poorest areas in the country. I don't know if there's an overlap in that. I can't tell.
No, there definitely is. And of course, the biggest white-collar criminal in the country, Ken Griffin, spoke at the City Club Chicago the other day complaining that Chicago was like Afghanistan. And to Ken Griffin, if you're worried about the crime here, with your company Citadel probably not paying its fair share of taxes, I say get the F out and good riddance to you. Interesting, too, when we're talking about stats and how agendas are normally automatically glommed onto when we're talking about the danger to our police department and our officers here in Chicago. I understand that you found some other interesting stats.
Yeah, so this is something that really gets to me because people say it all the time. It's just like one of those things that like it's like the Loch Ness Monster. It's like everyone's heard of the Loch Ness Monster, but has anyone ever really seen the Loch Ness Monster? Well, in this case, I always also want to pull up that there's statistics. The math exists, and I know it's funny. It's like, police. You can get through the police a record of every single bullet that they've shot in a target range. Still have amazing. Anyway, police are actually not the most dangerous job in America. They're not even close. They're actually the 22nd most dangerous job in America. And I want to give a shout out.
How can that be? They need more money to protect themselves. They need more money.
I would love to see the people in 21 through 1 get that money because they actually have dangerous jobs. So I want to give some examples of some very dangerous jobs that are far more dangerous statistically than police officers. They include such really dangerous jobs as grounds maintenance workers and delivery drivers. Delivery drivers actually is quite dangerous, which comes. Oh, actually, my favorite, which talking about before the show, was 12 is crossing guards. So if you're a crossing guard and you're like, this is too dangerous work for me, I need something that's almost twice as safe, become a cop. And you'll get paid more. Cops, I was looking through this list. I'm just going to really quickly run through it. So logging workers, they get paid a decent amount. Aircraft pilots, I think they actually get paid, depending where they're at, less than cops do. Oil and gas mining, they can get paid more than cops. Roofers get paid less than cops. And these are all, I'm going to kind of skip through so I don't take up too much time. Garbage collectors.
No, we got time.
Yeah. Okay. Garbage collectors. They get paid, depending on where you're at, they get paid well. If you're in New Orleans, they don't get paid at all. But if you're in like Chicago, it's a union job that gets paid really well. 5th most dangerous. Iron workers, delivery drivers again. So if you're a delivery driver, I think that I'm just going to say on this. If you're a delivery driver and you're getting too much heat, become a cop. It's a much safer job, pays better as well. But my point is that cops are among one of the most safe jobs of the kind of work that they do, and they're paid basically the best besides oil and gas miners. So when they say that they're so scared to do work, I say buck up and take inspiration from the delivery drivers around you, and maybe don't ask to be paid anymore.
I found it interesting, too, that the technology that they were talking about in that clip, the spot shotter technology, it's apparently not as reliable as they would hope it would be. I'm not sure is the spot shotter, I'm not sure if the spot shotter is related to the blue light cameras across the city. I don't know if they're tied into that also.
The spot shutters are those I think they're microphone antennas, and they triangulate the position of where shooting's happening based on. But of course, have you ever heard like gunshots anywhere? They echo, which kind of makes it hard to use anyway. And anytime someone sets off a fireworks or yells too much, or I'm sure crashes their car or beeps their, I'm sure there's a lot of things that set that off. But I'm glad that that police chief was in that video. Like, well, if it saves one life, doesn't matter if it costs millions of taxpayer dollars to fix. But to your original point, then why don't we save lives by getting people out of poverty? One of the biggest contributing factors to violence.
The Sun-Times reporting on this council hearing, we're in a public safety crisis. Chicago is the most dangerous city in the country, said Alderman O'Shea, whose far southwest side ward is home to scores of Chicago police officers. Saying he's frustrated after hearing so much fluff at Monday's hearing, O'Shea said everybody likes to point blame at the judicial branch, and that's what Brown does all the time. He's always saying the judicial branch is letting violent offenders out as opposed to the nonviolent offenders. Always pointing the finger at the state's attorney, who we will be covering in another story later. But the overwhelming majority of elected officials who have office space in this building endorsed the state's attorney. Interesting points.
Amazing. An alderman who's financially and his constituents are aligned with a statement like that, made a statement like that. I'm really quite shocked. I also want to give a shout out to cops for so they like to blame oh, there's violence. Like they're talking about shoplifters I mean, we know the bail system has just been sort of reformed, and a lot less nonviolent people are letting out, and the police are of course saying, well, that means violence. I would just say to the cops, maybe if you did a better job than catching 25% of murderers and 1% of rapists, I might care that you made that statement. But maybe work on the big boy crimes and stop complaining about shoplifters being let out.
You know, a few weeks back, I think it was last month or a few weeks back, we saw this incredible surge in violence down on Michigan Avenue. I don't know how often you drive downtown, but when I drive downtown along Michigan Avenue, I normally always see Chicago police cars parked in the center median strips, monitoring things, making sure that the Magnificent Mile is always protected. And when I saw this specific incident where, I think it was the weekend of the Mexican Independence Day. There was all the stuff going on downtown, and there was some chatter on social media that CPD was actually withdrawing from enforcement because they wanted to perhaps let some of this violence happen because of their unhappiness with the mayor during the negotiations with the Fraternal Order of Police to make the mayor's office look bad, which leads to Southwest Side Alderman Marty Quinn of the 13th. And I've heard him before reiterating, he said during a July 2nd hearing on summer violence, Chicago needs to hire 2,000 police officers, twice as many as the number of vacancies. The constituents of the 13th Ward want to see more police. They're growing frustrated by paying more taxes and not seeing enough, Quinn said. If we have to hire more police, we should go ahead and do that, he's added. Otherwise, people are just going to move out of the city. I don't like to feed into conspiracy theories, but when we saw what was going on with those negotiations and the shock of seeing so much craziness down on Michigan Avenue without the police intervening anywhere, it can't help but make you wonder if there's actually a coordinated effort to step back to let more violence happen so that they can then claim this is why we need more money to add to their budgets and pay cops more, and just continue to go on being unaccountable with all the laws they break that taxpayer money has to pay for later in all kinds of settlements. Yeah,
I don't even think that sounds conspiratorial. It just sounds like what they do and have done before openly. I mean, it's I can't think a matter thing just blew it all over the edge. I can't think of another group of babies, honestly, who get paid 6 digits plus overtime, get a pension, get great health care, have all police unions need to just disappear and be reformed with non-insane people saying that someone tell me another position where you get to observe all the parts of the crime scene that you killed someone in before you give testimony as part of your union contract. The fact that they can shoot people, any job where you could kill someone for whatever reason and get paid vacation. The fact that they have such a huge amount of political power in most cities, get half of the local budget in most places where they operate, get weaponry, get more or less whatever they want, take more money from citizens than all other citizen-to-citizen, non-gang related, actually no, including gang-related crime, and still complain that you're not being treated fair.
We covered last week, I believe it was last week, how there's a push to release or make public police misconduct records. And I'm like, why aren't those public? Why is there a push to get those, make those easily available when they should just be a matter of the public record to begin with?
It's even worse. If I remember, I believe it was Chicago. I know a few places did it, and I might be confused with someplace else, but and then 85% sure it's within Chicago specifically that I'm talking about. Like, I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago, they deleted all misconduct records that were over 5 years old right before the rule came in that they had to save them.
Of course they do.
Even if they release it, it's not complete.
Of course not. Covering their asses. Well, let's move on to the next story. I wanted to do an update because I had reported about this on Friday, and I guess we'll just go to the video. I'll let it run, then we can talk about it after.
Okay.
New details tonight in the tragedy that took the life of an Illinois State Trooper on the Dan Ryan Expressway. Tonight, sources tell NBC5 he took his own life, and we've learned about the frantic efforts to save him, including from passers-by. NBC5 win is live with new
information. Pause it real quick on that video.
Yeah, give me a sec. Let me put the mouse over there.
Anytime I see a line of 30 cop cars going, well, there goes $10,000 an hour.
Yeah.
And people aren't doing their job anyway.
I have a lot of sympathy for this officer. This trooper. I don't know what was going on in his life that he chose this way out. And also a note, I think this past weekend there was the walk for suicide downtown, but this particular story from Channel 5 Chicago also mentions, which I think is important. If you or someone you know is at risk of suicide, please call the U.S. National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 800-273-8255. Text HOME to 741-741 or go to speakingofsuicide.com resources for additional resources. Let me continue this report.
Day and a heartbreaking day for the family of Trooper Gerald Mason and for Illinois State Police. A woman who was off duty at the time found the trooper shot in his cruiser and used his radio to call for help. A tragic discovery at 43rd and the Dan Ryan around 1:40 this afternoon.
Help! Off duty! We need help! Please! Officer shot!
A trooper now identified as Gerald Mason was found in his patrol car with a gunshot wound.
We got a state police vehicle! We're over on northbound lane! Get help, please!
A swarm of state police troopers arrived on scene to try to save one of their own. Witnesses say the injured trooper was loaded into an unmarked car and rushed to the University of Chicago Medical Center.
They said a state trooper was shot on 43rd, so I called my son's phone. He normally answered, but he didn't answer.
Linda Mason is heartbroken and says the trooper who died was her 35-year-old son.
My heart won't stop racing. That's my baby, my firstborn. I know he loved what he do, so this is what he wanted. It's his life, so it hurts though to lose him.
A show of honor and respect this evening for the trooper and his family as his body was escorted from the hospital to the Cook County Medical Examiner's office.
The work that these men and women do every day, it's ongoing. They're exposed to the most horrific parts of human nature, and they do it again and again and again.
Meanwhile, Mason.
All right, so look, this is tragic. My heart breaks for that mom. I mean, nobody wants to hear a parent talking about losing their child that way. And we do send sincere condolences to the family. Interesting, though, in the live chat, dude, where's my car? Which is what I wanted to bring up in relation to this story. I thought that officer was shot by somebody. I never expected he committed suicide. There was, yes, dude, where's my car? There was quite a rush, as we reported on this last Friday, that this was identified as another expressway shooting. And Daniel and I talked about before the show how when there's an agenda to serve, it's interesting how quickly that story gets circulated until the full facts come in. In fact, there was a story many years ago. Actually, I'll pass this to you, Dan, that you reminded me of. I do remember the story of the other cop who was found dead, and take it from there as far as how these things serve agendas.
Yeah, so it's like we were talking about a previous case from a while back where something similar happened. All the cop was malicious and radioed, "Oh, it's like 3 black guys are chasing me," before he shot himself. who in turn was embezzling. So I actually was just pulling this up. I thought this was interesting because this is something that isn't talked about, which I think should be talked about with police, and it sort of goes into like how just terrible, like, you know, it's like the never-ending war situation where police commit suicide more than almost any other job profession. Like I said, it's actually a pretty sick. I think they literally put in here, a cop is times more likely to kill themselves than to be shot. I think that says a lot. I think that says a lot about the job and how it must feel to like be in a job that, like, I'm sure that they feel like we're not doing anything.
Look, there's got to be a lot of hopelessness. I mean, we're very critical of the bad cops in Chicago, okay? But you know, at the same token, they see a lot of bad shit. It's no excuse or condoning what a lot of them engage in. But, you know, I can't help but think that this particular trooper was probably one of the good ones. I mean, when you're faced with this system where nothing is changing, and as his mother said, all the stuff that he was seeing, it's, you know, there are two sides to what's going on, and we have to, I think, have a little bit of sensitivity towards it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that it's interesting because it's like, you know, when you know, we have a certain, like, you know, even I have a certain take when I hear a cop shot someone before I look into it. I'm like, it's like, I know they. But when I hear cops, you know, killing themselves, I sort of have that same reaction that you were just talking about, which is you sort of have to have, like, to kill yourself. It's not because you're out of money. I mean, there's some cases where you're embezzling and you try and set up an elaborate thing, but that's not as common. That's usually not an issue. It's people who see this stuff and feel that they can't do anything about it. And I'm sure that must just destroy them because they're in a job that is systemically not designed to help people systemically. And it's, I remember, who was it? I forgot the guy's name. The guy, the Baltimore cop. I forget his name off the top of my head, but he was talking about how he looked at some of the older crime blotters or whatever he was a cop in Baltimore, and he was looking at some older crime, and he was looking at the area of the beat that he was in, and he looked like 30 years ago, same exact crime, same exact rate, nothing changes. So if you're a cop, you're getting paid a lot of money not to help people, because if you were helping people at a grand level, people would be a lot nicer to police kind of as a natural byproduct, and police would be, you know, a lot of things would be seen as much more positive, and crime statistics would be improving, not maintaining as they are.
Yeah. Art Medina in the live chat makes a very good point. We pretty much ask cops and soldiers to go out and deal with the bullshit we're never prepared for or to deal with, and then we never ever support them fully due to our moral compass.
Yeah, I think that, like, we've talked about this before. I think that cops are there's too much. First of all, we're just throwing money at a problem and not doing it smartly. So we're reacting instead of it's reactive instead of preventative. Yeah. How the distribution of money is going out. Yeah, we should have. Here's what we should do: have, first of all, disengage cops from revenue generation. That's a really terrible set of circumstances. I don't know if someone talked about having civilians do traffic stops and traffic tickets. And then I remember some cop was like, well, what if they drive away? It's like, okay, we have pictures of their license plate.
Yeah, they drive
away.
We
can work with that.
Why
we have cameras.
Why
escalate? And then, have hire a ton more. You know what would really help? Open back up mental health facilities that were closed. I don't know. Help people get out of poverty, as that's the #1 driving factor in what we're dealing with. Cops should be like 5 different jobs that are more specialized. Cops should be like on top, kind of like acting as support for like all the other roles that we really need. Maybe helping out, joining in with a few of them, but like they should not be on the front line. I mean, again, it's not that dangerous a job. It's not like cops are walking and they're getting shot everywhere. And part of the reason people act so aggressively, to a degree, not entirely, is because they know the cops aren't, and they know that I feel like that this person who killed themselves, if they were in a position where they weren't in front of kind of the worst of humanity every day with no real ability to change it, they were maybe in supportive roles, with social workers, or they were called in almost like SWAT in a sort of way, but kind of not SWAT, and called in as needed when things are out of hand and someone else can't deal with it. We don't have enough negotiators. Cops are supposed to be negotiator extraordinaires, lawyers that have no training and don't know the law most of the time. People with guns, it's a job that's of course going to fail.
Absolutely.
Also, peer detectives.
Yeah. On the rush to identifying this as an expressway shooting, I had come across another comment, I think it was over the weekend, where in relation to expressway shootings and carjackings, why are we seeing such a surge in carjackings across Chicago? Why do you think?
I would say people. Well, first of all, I think with the pandemic in general, there are just less people using their cars. I think generally people are just out of money.
Well, okay, that could be a point, but carjackings are people are stealing cars to commit crimes with those cars, so they can't be identified. Is what this young woman, I guess, who was charged with a carjacking. And when we were talking in previous shows about how the state is going to be putting these cameras on the expressways to photograph license plates, do people really think people who are going to be committing crimes on the expressways are going to be using their own cars? Those license plates might help identify a lot of stolen vehicles, but they're never going to find the actual perpetrators.
I would say they're going to do a good job of bringing in revenue.
Ultimately, they've told us that's not what the cameras are for, and I always parse that with yet, because ultimately I'm sure that's exactly how they're going to be used. Once the pictures that they take of all the license plates don't actually lead to the snipers or perpetrators committing crimes on the expressways, so they're going to squeeze out what they can from that investment eventually.
And by the way, it's like also how many dollars are we spending to put in a program that's really not going to have that much effect again?
Yeah. Yep. So from Word Deer Entertainment, hey, Jerry, you lose your razor, you rebel, you. I knew someone was going to make a comment about the fact I didn't make time to clean up for tonight's show. So I promise I will be better groomed for Friday. I was just running around, getting the stories together, and I didn't have a chance to clean up. So Ward Deer Entertainment, point taken.
And actually, right on that, my razor, which I've had for about a decade, just died today.
Was it an electric razor? Oh, I don't use an electric razor. I use the three blade ones. But yeah, I usually hate coming on not cleaned up because these videos will stay online for posterity, and I like to look professional. So my apologies to all of our viewers. I will do better in the future. Let's go back to the live chat though, and I see some new comments had come in. Okay, yeah. Actually, they aren't related to the story. They're related to mocking me. Thank you.
Hey, if anyone, I'm just saying, if anyone can be mocked, let me take the bullet.
I look like Nixon in 61. Thanks a lot, Art. Yes, I am a rebel. At least I try to be. Thanks to everybody. What did you just say?
Oh, no, just what you popped up. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be the example.
Yeah. I'm supposed to be the example.
We all are at Heartlands Media. Yeah, Kit is the example that we all try to follow as best as we can. He's the lead rebel. All right, let me move on to our next story. Let's put this one on screen, and this is one that I'm going to read from. In relation to all the crime in the city and how they're talking about Kim Foxx is not putting more violent offenders in prison, which is why we have all this crime. Apparently, Mayor Lightfoot lied about West Side shooting charges, Kim Foxx says, and she's tired of political stunts. This comes to us from Kelly Bauer at Block Club Chicago. State's Attorney Kim Foxx heavily criticized Mayor Lori Lightfoot on Tuesday, saying the mayor was wrong to call for charges in a West Side shooting and said things are untrue. Foxx held a rare news conference to respond to Lightfoot's own barbs from Monday. The mayor, speaking at an unrelated event, said she was concerned Foxx's office didn't press charges in the shooting, and she did not understand that decision. But the state's attorney's office has not ruled out pressing charges in the case. They told police they'd need more evidence for murder charges, and police agreed, Foxx said. Foxx compared Lightfoot's remarks to a political stunt. Lightfoot's comments were inappropriate. It was wrong, Foxx said. We will continue to work with our partners in law enforcement to ensure that the necessary work is done so that we may bring charges and ultimately secure a conviction for those who engage in the violence that we have seen across the city. That is our mission. It's not to try cases in the media, nor to play politics on the deaths of children and veterans and people in our community. Fox also criticized Lightfoot herself, a former prosecutor, for talking about the case publicly, saying it could damage efforts to bring to justice the people involved in the shooting if they're charged. We cannot play games, Fox said. We must operate as the professionals we are. And that means as prosecutors, we don't engage on the facts and the evidence on the case in the media. And we would expect that our partners, especially those who served as prosecutors, would recognize that and, more importantly, tell the truth. Fox said she's requesting a meeting with Lightfoot, Superintendent David Brown, and police officers from Area 5 to discuss her concerns with leaks from that area and with officers' investigations there. The shooting in question happened Friday morning in the 1200 block of North Mason Avenue. Officers there saw 4 people get out of 2 cars and shoot into a home on the block. People inside the home then shot back, hitting one man, the police said. The other gunmen took off in their cars, and the man was pronounced dead at the hospital. 2 people from inside the home were also shot and were hospitalized. Hey, look, I'm not a huge fan of Kim Fox, but I'm going to give her credit where it's due here. She's absolutely right. I mean, most of what Lightfoot and Brown are doing are constantly engaging in political games to advance their own agendas. And this was completely uncalled for, the mayor to make these public statements in the midst of this investigation just to get more political points.
Yeah, it's like it seems like every story that we cover with cops that either get killed, kill themselves, or something happens, no one cares. No one actually empathizes with the people that kill themselves. It's how can I use that to add kindling to my pyre? How do I take
doing all the time recently?
Yeah, it's a real disgrace, and it goes to show why we don't actually solve crime in the city, why systemically things don't get better, because everyone's more focused on looking good in the short term and how they can politically swing an event in their favor for political points. And I would argue people's lives might be a little more important than political points, but that's just me.
I'm really curious to see how her budget that she proposed a few weeks back, if it's going to pass, using all those federal funds to actually do some of what we're talking about here, create, what was it, the $500 a month UBI for certain residents in the city that qualify, that are low income. She announced a lot of what I think are programs that sound good, but is it all talk? Was it all talk? I guess we're just going to have to wait and see, unfortunately.
And not only is it all talk, but how much is going to be embezzled? How much of that money is actually going to reach the intended people? How many of the intended people are actually people that it should? Or are we going to get a, hey, guess what? All cops, hey, newbie cops, we're giving you a $500 a month bonus because you're doing such a hard job. Again, it's like, I've learned covering stories and news over time. The procedure of how you actually make something happen is usually more important than the budget you're working with. Because if you're just going to force it in a place that doesn't make any sense, it doesn't matter how much money you can throw at the problem. What matters is, are you actually creating solutions? And I think that if that money is properly targeted to the right people who are just getting by and need like a little extra something to build a savings account with to move, or to do something else.
Connection with Daniel. Wait a moment. He froze up a moment.
All right, let me know if I'm back. Oh wait, no, is Jerry the one that's out? Someone let me know in the comments below whether or not I'm here or not. Okay, so it is Jerry. Hey guys, looks like I'm still here. Try and filibuster as long as I can. Yeah, I think that cops are in a position where, again, it's all become political. Their role has never really been to, stop or everything's wrong from the start. It's a cake that has half as much flour as it needs to fundamentally. It doesn't matter how good the quality of the flour is. You can't make a cake if half the sugar's here. It's a science. You got to nail it down. Cops are doing too much work. They need to have their job split into pieces. I think cops, I don't think that the cop position should pay as well as it does. Because again, it's not that dangerous, all things considered. So I don't know. I feel like, guys, let me know in the. Oh, there we go.
I think we have. I don't know what happened on this end. It seems my internet dropped out, and I guess I mean you were kind of frozen, then I froze out. But I was. Thank you, War Deer Entertainment. I was frozen in a pearl clutching moment. I really greatly appreciate that. But no, where were we? We were talking about before I started freaking out about the tech issues. Please continue. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh yeah, I was just kind of reiterating everything we said, that it's like fun. It's like the entire system's like a cake that has half as much flour, but really top level ingredients. Doesn't matter that your ingredients are great. If you have half the flour when you're baking, you screwed up. And if we don't get a system that, it's like people think it's just about cops. Just put more cops somewhere and they'll make it. No, these are specialized roles that take out. Well, you know what we need? You know, one thing that would really help a lot of people in America, which is actually something that's done in Europe, make paralegals able to perform specialized law practices. It would cut the cost of representation in a lot of different things drastically. It's why lawyers are not anywhere near as expensive in Europe as they are in America. You do that, you give people more ability to access the courts without having a law degree or a legal or a license. That would help a lot of people. You'd be really helpful in communities that are like that. Having legal aids that charge $30 or $40 an hour go to people and help them with housing disputes or legal property boundary stuff, because no one's going to be able to hire $500 or $600 an hour lawyer. It's like there's things that we can do. Like, I don't know, hiring a lot more detectives and actually giving them money to solve crimes. And not it doesn't matter if murder is illegal if like 25 to 30% people get caught while doing it. It's like these are the things that matter. These are the things that seem obvious, but everyone keeps going, well, we have these police. They're really politically connected. Lightfoot's going to back them. Who's going to back them? Who's not going to back them? Is someone from an aldermanic position going to say that there's too much danger to police? America has lost the ability to actually fix things. And it goes with almost every system that we have. And cops are a huge one. They're, in many ways, everything they do is for the most part obsolete based on what is actually needed. What we need is as a country and a city that has a safety net for people that need it, and funding for them as needed. A place for people with mental issues to go that's not a jail. A job, not just jobs training, but like life training that's actually effective and not just like the job training the U.S. does is like 5% effective because they have no idea what they're doing. Helping people get through school, that's enormous. If you keep kids fed and you don't turn them away from lunch lines because they don't have money, that's really effective too. Helping single moms raise their kids, making sure daycare is affordable and safe, making sure that there's not lead. By the way, a big thing, the areas that are the most violent in the city have the most residual lead in them, which is a thing that you'll find all over the country, that don't always overlap. You can very well tell how dangerous an area is by how much lead is in the soil, because we don't care. I just feel like it's like everyone talking about, oh, we should give police half the budget. How about we do these other things so that we don't need as many police?
Yeah. Well, when we talk about budgets and money going to the right places, I feel what I'm hearing in the news right now, too, in relation to our next story, is that people in the city are at the same time complaining about the fact that the mayor's not keeping the Chicago Bears here. Priorities as far as like where our money should be going, shoveling it to a team that uses the stadium, like 11 times a year or so. I also feel, Daniel, before we go into this next story, what we're going to be talking about next year, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think we're going to be talking about the fact that all these federal funds that Lightfoot said were going to be used for all these programs that she wants to introduce are going to be misappropriated. Exactly what you said.
Yeah, wouldn't shock me at all. Also, the only reason that anyone should have taxpayer dollars go to a football team is if the city owns the football team.
Right. And with this football team wanting to leave Chicago for Arlington, a park racetrack or Arlington Heights, they should leave the Chicago name behind. Let's jump into our next story. I love this story because I'm glad that our lawmakers are doing something. Apparently, the Bears thought in their flight to Arlington Heights they were going to be using taxpayer funds to help cover the cost of acquiring that property. Let's listen to WGN 9 News.
State lawmakers are lining up to block the team from using taxpayer money.
And for the first time, the governor is now sharing his thoughts on a possible move to the suburbs. WGN's Jewel Hillary is here with more. Jewel.
Hi, good evening, Micah and Bray. A state lawmaker I spoke to says the Bears haven't asked the state for any money to help build a new stadium, but if they do, several state leaders say they plan to say no. When asked if it's inappropriate for taxpayers to pay for stadium buildings, Governor Pritzker says this.
That's not something that I would decide for a city. I think that cities are...
I think Pritzker, as much as I'm pleased with how he's handled the pandemic, doesn't need to ride the fence on this one and play nice. I think he should say it's bullshit.
Going to have to make their own decisions. What they'll do.
The governor is a Bears fan, but he says his priority is to maintain fiscal responsibility for the state.
As you know, it's very important for us to focus on our fiscal situation in the state, making sure that we're building up the infrastructure of the state and that we're balancing our budget.
Pushback on any new state funding going to the Bears is coming loud and clear from several state lawmakers.
I want to be clear that the Bears have not officially come to the state to make an action. But what we're saying is, please don't come. Because we have an obligation to operate the state's finances based on our priorities, and this should not be one of them.
Today, Representatives Mike Zaleski and Cam Buckner filed what they call proactive legislation. They say it would ensure that taxpayers are not responsible financially if a new stadium is built in Arlington Heights.
The reasoning is really simple. We've already invested money, taxpayer money, in Soldier Field. And
lots.
Before we begin a project on a new stadium, we should take our time and make sure that the taxpayer investment is being protected in the existing investment.
Representative Zaleski says taxpayers remain on the hook in the amount of about $400 million from the original Soldier Field renovation.
This fucking McCaskey family, they're billionaires. And why are they billionaires? Because they don't pay taxes. And they constantly rely on taxpayer funding to run their business. Isn't that socialism?
Well, again, we've been talking about for a while on the show. It's like capitalism only really exists for people that don't have money. If you have a lot of money, there's a lot of corporate socialism going around. I also want to just give a handout. First of all, it's just like, what a world we're in. We're like J.B. Pritzker, the billionaire governor of Illinois, is like the reasonable one in the situation.
Yeah,
it's like the fact that he's like, the fact that he's like going, this doesn't seem reasonable. He doesn't. I agree. He should have gone further. Like, why are we even doing this in the first place? There's precedent. It's like, why are they doing this? Why are they expecting we'll pay? Because we always do.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, they're like, hey, can we install like a flamingo fountain? Like, we don't want to pay for it. Can you go? Yeah. Well, Chicago, we'll take it over. That's no issue. It's such a nuts thing that
we spent all this money turning Soldier Field into like the UFO from Close Encounters of the Third Kind, right? And that's still not enough. They want us to build them a new stadium, and if they're not going to get it, they're going to run to Arlington Heights. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
it's like that's all that they do is they take advantage of people's nostalgia. But you know what the city could do if they really wanted to bring people together? Attack the Chicago Chicago Bears. All sports teams kind of look alike to it. It's the Bears, right, that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Okay. Just want to make sure I didn't misquote. Turn the entire city against the Chicago Bears ownership for it. Don't go after the team.
Absolutely.
Of course, that's but just Lightfoot should. Yeah, every Sunday, Lightfoot should be out every day talking about how they've stolen all this money, promising to be the city, and now they're immediately leaving, and how Chicago should start its own team like Green Bay does. And I don't know, just destroy their reputation. I mean, it just seems easy to me, but what do I know? I'm just some guy who has ideas that tend to be things that work out when people use them. I don't know. Yeah. I guess that's the bar.
the bottom line is the McCaskies have been a thorn in the city's ass for decades. And what I really love about this story is what I'm going to bring up here now. They thought that they were going to hold us hostage for what they wanted and run Arlington Heights. Well, maybe not. Let's hear what Arlington Heights has to say about this.
Arlington Park pretty quiet right now. No racing coming back here anytime soon. There's also no professional football coming anytime soon either. Last night's town council meeting, the village president.
So much for their bluff.
Trying to bring football here with the residents' best interests in mind. A week after the big news that the Bears signed a purchase agreement for the Arlington Park property, and not much has changed.
The part I don't understand, they signed a purchase agreement, which means that they are responsible for the advancement of this deal, while they're bailing out on their responsibility and financial responsibilities to the city for Soldier Field. I don't understand what the hell they're thinking. Like, oh, we're just going to go do this and we're going to sign this agreement. Are these agreements so easy for these billionaires to break all the time that they can just use them as a way to play chicken with the people that they want to twist them into getting their way elsewhere? Is what it always appears like to me.
I'm sure there's something like if you renege, you have to pay 5% of deal or whatever. You know what JB really should do? Here's a great push. Ready for this? Just announce a new tax. Any football team that is based in Illinois that leaves Illinois has to pay $1 billion.
Leaves Illinois or Chicago?
Either one.
Okay.
Because it's like, who else besides Chicago can afford to make such a stupid deal in the first place? I don't think Arlington has the $500 million lying around somewhere to just like throw into whatever renovations they're going to demand to redo the racetrack. So I think there's that on that front. But again, it's like, sure, move to Arlington. I dare you.
JR makes a comment in the live chat. I cannot agree more. I guess I would be in the twilight zone if dollars were used for homeless and free health care. As far as like these corporations holding or these big franchises holding their cities hostage, Gabriel Gomez shares in Minnesota, they made taxpayers pay for a fascist piece of architecture and then slapped the name U.S. Bank over it. It dominates the skyline. Something probably similar happened when they tore down Comiskey Park before it became U.S. Cellular Field.
Yeah. People are just so, it's like people are way too into like sports just in general. It's just the gladiatorial fields all over again for a different era.
It's the distraction. It's the bread and circuses to keep people's attention off of the dollars that we need for the homeless and free healthcare. Let me continue with this story, the rest of this particular video.
The racetrack is still standing. There are no bulldozers on the grounds. There is still, in fact, a long way to go before there could be professional football in Arlington Heights.
Obviously, this is not a done deal. There's a long way to go in this process.
The village president told the board at last night's meeting he's gotten no details regarding the Bears' possible plans for the property, and it would likely be a year or two before there would be any shovels in the ground working on building a new stadium. Nevertheless, some residents are urging caution when it comes to luring the team to Arlington Heights.
I just want the Bears to be a good neighbor, and I want them to come in and not be.
Good luck with that. They're going to come in and just take over everything.
Predatory.
By the way, I was just looking this up. Do you know how many people live in Arlington Heights? 75,000. It's like, okay.
They're expecting everybody's going to come from Chicago because I think that there's a train station there and there's more parking.
Oh, good luck with the way that we set up infrastructure to handle that with no issue.
Right.
I just want to really quickly do some math.
Sure.
Okay.
Well, they're expecting the taxpayer dollars to help pay for that infrastructure once they seal that deal and leave Chicago is what this whole story is about.
So we know that they're going to, whatever package comes together is going to be probably near or around what they wanted before. So we'll just say, I just picked 400 million because it's sort of the standard at which these billionaires are used to. I broke that down per citizen. If they expect to move to Arlington Heights and get the same sort of a loan, or not loan, I just give them the money, that breaks down to $5,300 per citizen.
$5,300 per person? Wow. Like we said, priorities.
I was
Daniel,
gone for a second and I'm back.
Oh, you froze up for a moment.
Yeah.
Could you,
Okay.
you
Yeah,
want to
so
confirm that figure? Because you froze up.
Yeah. So if you break that down, we assume 400 million because it seems like the going rate of what they ask. That comes out to $5,300 per citizen in Arlington
In the state
Heights.
or in Arlington
In
Heights?
Arlington.
That's, wow, of course. There's the scheme laid out there.
Hey, but some bars and restaurants will make a bunch of money a couple times a year. So,
And Arlington Heights is not. I wonder how much would potentially grow there. But of course, those businesses are not going to be funded to build. They're just going to. The existing businesses, the smaller businesses, will be reliant and maybe benefit from the traffic to the Bears games. But it's just so ill-advised. And I think the whole thing's going to fall apart. Personally.
Yeah, yeah, it's just like I don't see how. Like, I think that they're just so used to getting whatever they want. They just wanted to try and stick it to the city. I'm sure to make it better. I'm sure there's some agreement that they were asking behind the scenes, like, hey, we'd like another 100 million, please. And the city was like, we really can't afford it now. We're not that corrupt right now, or else we're out of money this month. And it's like, fine, we'll move to Arlington. Look at us. We signed an agreement. Look, you're going to want us back, Chicago. And then they probably didn't expect everyone to go.
Right.
Maybe we'll put legislation together to stop us from getting any money.
It's exactly what happened. This time their bluff was called. They wanted to make a big public spectacle of it, but they didn't expect the governor and the lawmakers to say, okay, you want to do it. You're not going to be using taxpayer funds.
The equity we have in our community. Tom Locke told the board last night the village should be careful about offering the Bears financial incentives to move to the town. A number of other new stadiums in recent years have been built with the help of government subsidies, including AT&T Stadium in Arlington, Texas, which increased some taxes to pay for it.
Of course.
I think if they want to move here, that's fine.
They got taxes for the stadiums, but they don't have taxes for healthcare or building places for homeless people to live. I just saw, I was going to cover this on the show. There was an alternate story I was going to cover about how city council has approved these, like, these new towers to be put in downtown, these new housing, and it's just like no one's going to be able to afford to live there. They're approving this shit while people are still living under bridges.
And if I'm also not mistaken, the actual organizations are nonprofits. So they don't even pay taxes anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've got to do it on their own and not rely on residents.
Several residents have also expressed concerns about traffic. Arlington Park has been a big draw. Crowds for Bears games and other stadium events could draw 5 or 6 times more people on a regular basis. The village president, however, is promising vigilance.
We're not going to give away the store. We're going to make sure that we take care of our residents and maintain the great reputation of our village.
Sure they will.
Yeah. And just on top of this,
That's what they all say.
Point, the Bears would never move to Arlington except to make a point. And that point is making a better deal with the city.
Yeah.
That has backfired. And now, even like Arlington, like I'm sure they're like, again, like Chicago doesn't, $500 million, we can just waste that. That's fine. No issue. And like Arlington Heights is like just not big enough to make that kind of a statement. If anything, if they really wanted to try and pull this off, maybe like threaten to move to Naperville. Like they at least have the population to sustain this kind of a shift and have like infrastructure that's more or less set in place and could somewhat afford it because it's a very wealthy suburb or very wealthy city. But this is just negotiating that backfired, and it's disgusting.
Well, if they do decide to leave, as I said earlier, good riddance, leave the Chicago name at the door. For a final story.
Chicago just has to put out a law before they go. It's like, hey, any sports team, any sports team that moves out of Chicago can't use the Chicago name anymore. Like, the Chicago and Illinois could do so many bills to just screw with them.
Yeah. All for Nothing 388 says, if Bears leave Chicago, I'm already hearing rumblings about an expansion team being created for Chicago. Well, that would be great because we've got a big stadium that we've paid for that's going to be empty unless concerts resume at the tail end of a pandemic.
I think the city, if they should just make their own team, do what Green Bay does.
Yeah,
it's very profitable.
They should. And figure out a way to do a deal with the NFL to have another Chicago team added, even if it's not the Bears. So our last story of the evening, I thought, as I always say, I hate coming on and bitching about things that we can't always find immediate solutions for. However, this story that I found on Block Club Chicago, I thought was hopeful, optimistic. This comes to us from Jamie Nesbitt Golden, Bronzeville on the near south side. Chicago Beyond gives $1 million to Black and Brown-led groups, including Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid. Several Black and Brown-led Chicago community groups are receiving the financial help they need to continue helping neighbors, thanks to Chicago Beyond. The Impact Investor gave $1 million to 25 organizations under a first round of funding from its Rapid Response Fund, designed to give unrestricted dollars to those often overlooked in terms of financial support. Good, no means testing. The grants targeted individuals and groups taking on issues like housing, food insecurity, and violence prevention. Chicago Beyond aims to give $3 million through the fund. Recipients include Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid, 360 Nation, Blocks Together, Coalition for Urban Girls, Burst Into Books, and Chai Fresh Kitchen / Urban Growers Collective. Groups were chosen with the help of Chicago Beyond's People's Assembly, a group of residents plugged into their respective communities who provided advice and insight. For Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid, the $20,000 grant from Chicago Beyond couldn't come at a better time. Need has only grown in the communities it serves since the group was founded in March of 2020. The Mutual Aid Group hosts weekly activations at the Chicago Defender building in Grand Boulevard, giving away food and other basic necessities. Group member Cosmos, who declined to give his last name, told Block Club he sees a new face each week. We're helping people with rent, with utility bills, getting them to doctor's appointments, Cosmos said. Requests for help from the Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid Group came from residents as far as Roseland. No one is turned away, as the group relies on the honor system, trusting the person on the other end is in true need. We have 8 outstanding requests for eviction help last week. That may not seem like a ton, but it adds up, Cosmos said. Cosmos estimates the team spends $7,000 a month on efforts to keep their neighbors fed and housed. The bulk of that money is provided by folks who also live in the community. Can't we shift the money that the McCaskies want for their Arlington Park deal into what they're doing here? I know that sounds too logical, but
that makes too much sense.
It makes too much sense. Of course, everything we say here makes too much sense. That's why it never is put into action. In turn, those neighbors pay it forward by helping others. While there has been criticism about the effectiveness of mutual aid groups, particularly by those who don't see it as radical enough, I would say, hey, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. It's a good start. The Bronzeville Kenwood Mutual Aid Group has seen an immediate impact. For organizers, it's simple. Providing help without strings or barriers strengthens the community by giving residents a purpose, something in which they can invest. I welcome all criticism. Accountability is one of the highest forms of love. If I'm accountable to you, that means that you have an opportunity for us to do better, and vice versa, Cosmos said. We're at a point of reckoning, and we need to go further. A toast to Cosmos. I think that particular sentiment is at the root of all the criticisms that anybody is doing to hold any group accountable to actually fulfilling what their purposes or their claim purposes. This is an inspiring story, and I was glad to see it reported.
Yeah, I'm really glad. It's like I'm remembering, one of Kit's kidisms, I guess. It's just, it's just everyone's one bad day away from homelessness.
Yeah.
This is a place you can go to that you feel a lump, probably shouldn't see a doctor, you're out of food, and you would prefer not to go steal from someone else. Probably really help. A group like this, organized in the way that they are, probably saves like a dozen people a month from falling a much further distance than they are, and just at least keeping them at least. It's not a thing that's structured to really help people like move upwards, but at this point in time in America, the fact that they're doing what they're doing, I think is fantastic. I think that this kind of thing is good. I also think that groups like this do exist in the first place is a failure of the American system.
Well, a salute to Chicago Beyond, and hopefully more groups will be providing that kind of aid in other communities across the city, since our city council and city government can't quite seem to follow the example that they set, unfortunately. But hey, it's a good start.
Maybe the city can send cops to watch over the process.
Right. That's exactly what the city would do. So Daniel, bring us up to date with news over at Hardlands Media with the station. I know a lot of our viewers obviously are coming over to Chicago Corner from knowing about us through Hardlands Media and following the station's and the new studio's progress.
Yeah. So we are basically like, it's like we're always in a position of not being done. But like I was just talking, we went from having to purchase about $10,000 in equipment when we moved in to a couple weeks in having to purchase like $3,000 or $4,000 more in equipment, and then going to have to a couple weeks ago purchase $1,000 in equipment. And now I literally just before this started, I had to purchase about $350 in equipment. So I think that sort of gives the best way of explaining sort of that we're in a really good spot now. We've gotten everything's basically been worked out. Small details are all that's left. It's very more expensive than I thought to move into a new place of that size, but this is it works really well now, and we're really happy. And with the sound and the lighting are basically where I want them. And we got all the other stations. We got our radio room is ready to go. Just today, our Twitch room finished getting assembled. The place we're really happy with it. I mean, it's it's a lot. We just like killed ourselves all of September to get to the point we're at now, but it's just like we're nice and relaxed.
No, things are looking really good.
Yeah, and I'm really excited once we can move Chicago Corner in.
Yeah, I'd like to. I've spotted a little corner by the radio room that would be a nice little area with the city through the windows in the background with that fire escape. It almost kind of looks like a little alley. So I'm looking forward to what we can do there and be able to broadcast from the studio and have some guests come in. Why don't you share with our viewers some of the opportunities that are there at 99 Perspectives Hardlands Media as you've kind of built this, although obviously it's a studio to support the Hardlands Media network, it also will kind of serve as a co-op for those that want to create their own programming.
Yeah, actually, if you're able to pull up the website, eHeller just updated it with new photos. You can kind of walk people through.
Is it is it 99 Perspectives?
Yeah, 99 Perspectives. You can also find it through hardlandsmedia.com. It goes to the same place.
Oh, Hardlands Media. Okay.
Yeah, either one works. Once you're in Hardlands, you just pop over to the.
Of course, my keyboard is not cooperating with me. Bluetooth. Hang on a second. Let me well, talk about it, and I'll bring the website up in a second as you're discussing.
Yeah, so it's a big change that we went through. We went through just being basically an in-house production studio that just did video. Now we do audio, Twitch, a lot more sets. We went from 1 set to 4. We have a rooftop deck. We do editing. It's a real, we really offer like anything, any entry level all the way up to like mid-level professional would want in a production studio. It's all in one place.
Why am I having such a hard, every time I do a broadcast here, I've got to plug and jury rig things here in a certain way, and there it is. My keyboard, the Bluetooth of my keyboard sometimes is not cooperative when I'm trying to copy and paste things.
eHeller just through the link in chat. Okay.
I got it. I've got the link here, so I'm just waiting for there we go. All right, let me bring it up on screen here. Oh, nice. I haven't had a chance to visit the new page yet.
Yeah, so just pull it over to the first tab for 99 Perspectives. Right now you're on Hardlands Media.
Okay.
Yeah, and eHeller spent like the last week updating this part of the page, and the place just looks great. It has an amazing view, and it was very difficult, but I really was determined to find a way to have that be utilized in the shots. And we've had 2 different new clients that have come by and actually used the space, and they love the view that you get. It's a very unique view that of the city that really can't find anywhere else. And it's just like one side of the building is just, you can see the entire city, and the other side is this really gorgeous view of part of the outskirts of the city, but mainly the green and purple and the pink line train, which drives through. It's just like, it's a gorgeous location.
It's a beautiful space and a good part of town too.
Yeah, and we're really happy. It's like it's near public transit in the city. So that was a big thing, that we knew that a lot of people had a hard time accessing us on the north side. And now we're like 3 minutes away from everyone.
Okay, can you talk about some of the clients that are using the space? Are they other YouTube broadcasters?
Right now we actually have a lot of, it's funny. It's like, I always expected it to be a bunch of people that wanted to have YouTube careers, and we've sort of set up for that, and that's what we're optimized for. But a lot of people, like, they'll have, so we have one channel, he's called, what is this podcast name? It is, it's called Black and Wild. It's a podcast where this really, I love, he's reminds me to a degree of Kit in terms of that kind of interviewing charisma. So he's a really good talent. And he brings alongside, just kind of talks about their careers and the kind of music and what, basically their lives. It's a very, very interesting show. And actually just started today, which I know Lainey will be happy for me to promote. Lainey has a new show she's starting with her good friend Chip called No Chalice Required.
Oh, yeah.
Where they do wine. It's like wine, champagne, like cool, unique vintages and places that you'd never think to order from. Like, they have this brut that was, they were comparing with the champagne from New Mexico. I never would have thought to get a brut from New Mexico, but they have. And it was like, it's like it exploded in your mouth with like the amount of fizziness it had. It was not what I expected. It was very nice. And we're actually having our launch party later this month. We're trying to get more clients in the space because we really want to make a really cool community center, and that has all these different people that do all these different kinds of shows basically together in one space. And this all started years ago. The idea of 99 Perspectives is when I kept seeing Chicago talent just, leave. They always leave. They always go to New York or LA. And it's like, why? Why not try and make something that gives them a reason to stay? We have Chicago talents everywhere. A lot of really good people on TV everywhere are Chicago. They just feel like they have to move out. I want to make something where they don't have to.
Well, you guys we're off to a good start, and I'm really excited to see what future developments are coming. And I want to also share, this is a nice way to close the show. We have a wonderful comment from All for Nothing 388. I randomly discovered Hardlands Media in a search about politics a couple weeks ago. I love what you guys are doing, and it's fun seeing you guys progress. Keep it up.
Thank you.
All for Nothing 388. Thank you. You are all the reason we do this. And I thank everyone who has joined us tonight for the show and participated in the live chat. I'm sure many of you have already subscribed, but if you haven't, please, below, hit the subscribe button. We're right now, I think, last I checked, at about 965 subscribers, and we're trying to get to 1,000 so we can get some monetization for the channel to help support our streaming costs. So as I like to say every week, I don't have to keep pimping these Chicago Corner mugs that you can also get down at our Cafe Press store. Makes water 20 and any other drink 25%.
Oh, I can't beat that. We literally, what's crazy?
Yeah.
Heller and me were designing a brand new flavor enhancing cup. We only could get it to 20% improvement.
Wow. We haven't sold any of these yet to support our streaming costs. I think I might have the only one Cafe Press has manufactured. I'm not very happy with it. I'm very proud of it. So, maybe as we continue to grow, people will want to have one. to have their coffee with. So yeah, please like and subscribe to the show. If you like what we do here, share it on all your social media streams. Guide your friends here if they're like-minded and would enjoy the coverage we do of all things happening here in Chicago. Daniel, I want to thank you again for joining me tonight. It's always a pleasure.
And I just want to say real quick to everyone.
Sure.
Another way you can help Chicago Corner, if you're already subscribed and looking at the analytics right now, they need 800 more watch hours in addition to the 1,000 subscribers. So if you could put a playlist together of all the videos Chicago Corner's ever done, and just as you're going to sleep, just play that in the background, it would really help them out drastically.
Because that's what we're here for, is to put you all to sleep.
Just play it in the background, play it on a couple things, couple tabs. Yeah, it's like you're gonna at this point you're gonna hit 1,000 subs before you hit your 4,000 watch hours.
Because Daniel, what people most want when they want to peacefully fall asleep is to listen to me bitching.
Just mute it. If that's the case, just mute it. I know. We just need YouTube to think you're watching it.
Just game the system, and that's fine. It's Chicago. That's what we do here. Yeah. Remember, everybody, if it's happening on the streets, you'll hear about it here on Chicago Corner. Have a safe week. We'll see you again on Friday. Please be safe out there, and thanks again for watching.